Hello everybody, happy Wednesday, happy scoping out. I am so glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking about boundaries and that you can be kind without being a doormat. I know it's kind of a right? This is actually on the heels of last week's Periscope because we were talking about really answering a lot of people's rudeness and animosity with kindness and what that really means to hold that intentionality in your heart. And I wanted to express the idea that you can be that really kind, loving person without being a complete doormat for people. A lot of times people don't understand that you can do both. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we get there, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Triffany Hammond, just like Tiffany with an R. You can find out more about me at triffanyhammond.com. I'm a certified professional life coach, and I help women with all the trappings of success and help them add that happiness and balance piece. Oh, right. Boundaries are necessary. Thank you, Zoe. You're absolutely right. This is something that we really don't understand in our culture of my way or the highway, might makes right. The way that we understand boundaries right now is that you either are setting them and keeping them and everybody who doesn't respect them can get the hell out, or you're completely bending over, you're a total pushover, and everybody takes advantage of you, right? We think in these very dichotomous ways as though it's two polar opposites. And it really is not, and it doesn't have to. I mean, it can be, right? Obviously people do that all the time, but it doesn't have to be. And having it be polar opposites, having it be this dichotomous thing isn't healthy for us as we strive for success, especially those of us who are trying to really bring something good to the world, trying to bring change and positivity to the world. One of the biggest misconceptions about people who feel like they work in service to the world is that we don't know how to create a boundary, stick to it, that we don't know how to create professional business relationships, that we don't know how to do those things. And in all actuality, the most successful people on the planet, you look at somebody like Richard Branson, who, he wrote, what's the name of his book? If it's not fun, it's not worth doing. He walks that balance all of the time, naturally and almost effortlessly, just by keeping in touch with who he is as a human being. And by keeping in touch with who he is as a human being, he's in touch with who his employees are, with who his partner is, with who he's in touch with his connectivity to other beings, to other people. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch. So this idea that might makes right is a false idea, and one of the biggest places that we bring displeasure to our lives, in all honesty. I told you I help women with all the trappings of success find that happiness piece. One of the biggest things that is a barrier to that happiness is the idea that if they want to get something done, they've got to be the bitch, right? And let's be fair, there was a time when we had to show up very masculine in our energy. We had to show up very much large and in charge, and do more than the men around us, and do more than anybody else just to be taken seriously. That's true still to some extent, but the idea of the power that we bring through our feminine. I'm not talking about male female. I'm talking about masculine energy and feminine energy, right? Feminine is that creative. It's the compassion. It's the kindness. We all have it. Male and female have it, just like male and female all have masculine energy. And what we begin to find is that when we show up whole with the masculine energy that is able to do, is able to set that boundary, is able to logically see, this is, if I'm going to start here, this is where I want to end, and be that feminine, that creative, that loving kindness, that compassionate side. We can bring both of those. And the more we do that, the more sustainable our personal growth is, the more sustainable our professional growth is, because we're not constantly in a fight. We're not constantly battling something to build success into our lives, right? Without that fight, we have all that extra energy to invest in our creative endeavors, to invest in our businesses, in our partnerships, in ourselves. So what does it look like when you set a healthy boundary? Well, first of all, remember, just to catch you up from last week, because this does dovetail off of last week's topic, what we're talking about is beginning to see where people might be coming from when they come at you in rudeness, or something that looks like it was insincere or disingenuous or outright mean, right? And understanding that, first of all, Everybody here on this planet has at one point, at least in a flash, right? I don't care how nice of a person you are, you've at least had one flash, probably more, right? Where you've shown up as the jerk because your resources were low, you were exhausted, you didn't mean it, you misunderstood something, you were on the defense, you were tired, whatever. And anybody around you would say all of the same things. Well, that doesn't mean it gives you the right to be rude. That doesn't mean it gives you the right to be mean, right? But what you most needed in that moment, when you were running low, when your battery was running out, what you most needed in that moment was somebody to go, honey, this isn't like you. Are you okay? What you most needed was connection. This is what we were talking about last week. That when we come up, when we show up with the idea that people are always doing their best, that there really are, and maybe their resources have been low for a long time, and maybe their best just doesn't look like it's ever good enough. They're still doing their best. They don't mean to be a jerk. They probably hate themselves more than you hate them, right? And the one thing they need most is somebody to connect with them and go, honey, you seem like you're really upset. Do you need somebody to talk to? And this doesn't mean that we do this at every turn. Not everybody's going to be open, but we come with that intentionality. Even if we don't say anything, we just kind of like, it's okay. That the rude cashier or, the person that cuts you off. I don't know your story. I'm sure that's been me. Grace and compassion all the way, right? And when people first start these exercises, it's very cerebral. It's very up in their head. It's something you have to think about. They have to sort of police their thoughts and their actions. But over time, what begins to happen, the more you forgive outward, the more you express this grace and compassion outward, the more you can accept it in yourself. The more you can go, you know what, I'm not a horrible person. Yeah, maybe I treated that person in middle school poorly, or yesterday, maybe I treated somebody yesterday poorly, but I'm doing my best too. And it creates this beautiful cycle of forgiveness and love and compassion and growth in yourself. And the more you grow it yourself, the more you can put it out into the world. So what this begins to mean then, when you have somebody who's willing to take advantage of that, when you have somebody who is willing to, okay, yeah, you're always my go-to. And guess what? I'm not actually going to do my work. I'm just going to come to you and bitch about it, right? What happens with those people, first of all, you've been their only outlet. And if you continue to have grace for them without checking in with yourself to make sure it's still a good bargain on your end, right? You will begin to wear out. You will begin to lose patience. You will begin to, it stops going somewhere because it's a one-way street. You're giving. They're not doing anything for themselves, which means they're probably not turning around giving anything back to the relationship for you either. This could be a friend. This could be a boss. This could be somebody that you constantly have to deal with at the store. This could be anybody, right? So what happens when you are willing to say enough is enough, but you still want to do this with loving kindness? And the key word here is intentionality, right? If you begin to say, golly, this person just takes and takes and takes, I can't believe this. First of all, there's always the principle, you spot it, you got it, right? So if you see something in somebody else, it exists in you. This is true for the positive and the negative, right? If you see it in them, they just take. Well, gosh, what's really the baby fit, right? The baby fit is that you want your turn to take. It's not bad. It's an opportunity for introspection. It's an opportunity for you to look at yourself. Okay, so maybe you look at yourself and you say, yeah, in this situation, you know what? It is time for me to look for a more reciprocal relationship. It is time for me to create the space for more reciprocal relationship. And if that is the case, then this person who's taking up my time and my energy, they can't be in that space anymore, right? So enough is enough. And when you begin to have that conversation with them, when you begin to come to them with the conversation that asks for change, first of all, you can't make them do it. They may totally respect you and go, oh my God, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do it differently, right? They probably won't. But your work, your lane, I would say stay in your lane. Your lane is the self-advocacy. Your lane is sticking up for yourself. You can't make them do it, but you can create the boundary and you can stick to it. And when you come to that in loving kindness, so say the conversation, begins to change, rather than constantly give them advice and constantly assuage their fears and constantly tell them how they're a good person, maybe instead of telling them, you start asking them, that's interesting. What do you think you have to learn from that? Boy, that keeps coming up for you. What do you think that's about? And it puts up a little bit of a barrier, so you're not giving, right? You can be that sounding board, but you're not giving your energy. And a lot of times that's enough for people to start changing. One of two ways. Either they actually start asking themselves those questions and go, oh my gosh, that does come from me. I have been instigating that. Holy shit, I need to change that, right? Or they're not getting what they want from you anymore and the relationship fizzles out. That's what happens most of the time. I bet you, if I had statistics on it, I bet you 85% of the time, one of those two things is going to happen, which is a really kind and loving way to allow something to happen, create that space for you, to allow the people in that are going to be reciprocal relationships. And during that time, remember, stay in your lane. You have work to do. If this is a repeat situation for you, if you keep getting takers in your life, if you keep getting people that are clamoring for your love and your attention and your advice, but they don't ever give anything back, there's something in you that needs a shift. There's something in you that needs help. And that is a really great opportunity for you to keep practicing. So that idea of practice is what you bring to every relationship that comes after that. So if you get another taker and another taker and another taker and another taker, why then, rather than go, oh God, people are so blah, 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 right? That's not loving kindness. That's a mass generalization that's going to make you show up in anger and resentment. That's not going to serve anybody. Instead, you go, you know what? I need work and healthy boundaries. So every person that comes along that tries to take advantage, that is an opportunity to practice healthy boundaries. How else are we going to get good at it if we don't practice it? And now you're no longer demonizing the other person, right? And what happens is earlier on in each relationship, you get better and better at showing people how you want to be treated. So the people that are takers are going to start leaving earlier, and you're going to let them go. You're not going to take it personally, right? Because you're going to go, you know what? I'm shifting my dynamic. This is no longer okay with me. Do you see how the difference, do you see how that can be like, it's not a Band-Aid fix, so it doesn't come fast, but it's an evolutionary fix. It's something that you grow yourself into, where pretty soon you stand pretty firmly in self-respect and self-love and self-kindness and self-compassion. And that shows other people how you want to be treated. And you tolerate the relationships that treat you that way, and you don't tolerate, not in resentment, not in anger, but you just don't have the space for those other relationships when your life is so full of these really good ones. So when you get the one-off at the grocery store, you get that one relationship where you don't really have options to, many options, not the same options to change like a boss or a coworker. When you get those, you have the bandwidth to deal with them, right? You're not so depleted from your personal relationships that you're showing up to work to that one jerk that's always passing off the work to you or whatever the situation is, right? You don't show up to work empty. And when you're not empty, you can self-advocate better. If that person is always shoving off work onto you, you can go, that's great. I've got some other priorities right now. If you want this done quickly, you might want to find another way to get this done. Right? That's a healthy boundary. You're not telling them they have to change anything. You're not telling them how to treat you. You're not coming at them saying that they're a jerk. You're saying, these are my boundaries. I have my priorities set. I've shown up in loving kindness and grace and compassion to the work that I do in the world, right? And then you leave the rest up to them. I'm not going to prioritize what you've just given to me. If it is a boss, you can always say, all right, I have prioritized these things. What do you want me to move in order to prioritize this? Isn't that a beautiful way to say, you've already asked me to do 10 million things. What do you want to let go? That puts it back on their plate, right? And what happens is the way that you show up changes over time. Can you see how this comes with grace? If you come to that attitude, if you were to say that sentence with a heart filled with sarcasm and anger and resentment and hurt and pain, that's going to come off a lot different, right? You know what? I've already got things prioritized. What do you want me to move for this? Same sentence, right? Different intention, different leading intention behind it. You see how that's going to be different versus, oh, that's great. I've got some other things prioritized right here that I'm not going to be able to make time for this. So if you want it done quickly, you're going to want to find another way. I want to see you succeed, right? Basically, you're saying, I want you to get this done, but it can't happen over here. And it's completely different energy. And people are shocked by it, right? They're ready for the fight. They're ready for all the justifications. They don't know what to do when you come with loving kindness. Does that make sense to everybody? I feel like I've been blah, blah, blahing. I hope that's helpful. The upshot is assume positive intent. Whether you're talking about last week's topic or you're talking about this week's topic, you want to assume positive intent. And as long as you're assuming that everybody out there is doing the best they can, even if they show up as a jerk, every time they show up in front of you, that's your chance to practice forgiveness. That's your chance to practice compassion. That's your chance to practice the values you wish you were getting from them in yourself. That's your chance to strengthen that feminine strength. And remember, I'm not talking about male, female. I'm talking about that feminine energy, that loving, creative, bright light inside. Not the external do. They're both valuable in their own sense, but we don't value necessarily culturally the strength that comes from vulnerability, right? So when you bolster that in yourself and when you develop that in yourself, it changes the way that people relate to you. I know this firsthand. I used to be a currency trader, for crying out loud. It doesn't get any more masculine than that. And the power that I've received in the relationships that I've created and the things that have changed in my life since I've shifted to this mindset have been remarkable. And I've got this loving, reciprocal team in my life that contributes to me every single day and allows me to contribute to them in a way that isn't depleting to me. So you can do this. I want you to go out into the world today, and you're going to be on a hunt for the jerks. You're actually going to be looking for the rude behavior, which probably means you're not going to find as much of it. It just seems to be the way this works. But when you see it, that is your chance to practice this new mindset. Assume positive intent. They're doing the best they can. Remember, the only person you should be holding to your standards is yourself. You don't know their story. You don't know how exhausted they are. You don't know how depleted they are. Yeah, that doesn't give them a right to be rude, but you've been that person too. Even for a flash, you've been that. So find that place in you that needed that grace and compassion and exercise that with them. And watch how things change. Watch how things morph. And every day between now and next week, I want you to go out there and look for the jerk and look for the opportunity to practice this differently. And when you start to do that, you will see where the boundaries are supposed to go. You will see the boundaries you need to exercise. And when you get stuck, send me your questions and your comments at triffanyhammond.com. That's just like Tiffany with an R. /the inside scope, and I will answer them on my monthly free coaching call. Okay, so you're going to tell me where you get stuck. You're going to tell me what came up for you. You're going to tell me what irritated you and how you feel like you're not getting this right, and then we'll talk about the tools that you can put into place to really hone in on this and bring that balance into your life. Allow you to be the person you want to be. Risky, though, may approach the wrong jerk. Well, thank you for the opportunity to clarify. Not talking about approaching the jerk when the jerk approaches you, okay? So this could be directly. Somebody at the grocery store, right? Cuts you, just like bumps you out of the way to erases you to get into line, maybe. Let's say that's an example. And instead of being like, and you distance yourself and you don't say anything, maybe instead you go, oh my gosh, you must be in such a hurry. I've been there. See what happens. Maybe they're still a jerk, maybe they're not. But what begins to change for you is you've now, instead of been in denial and separated yourself from it, you've let them know, I've seen this inappropriate behavior. I'm sure it comes from a harmful place, but that hurt me too. Yeah, when the jerk approaches you. Yeah, don't go looking out. Don't go looking for jerks. That's exactly right. Exactly right. It could also happen indirectly, right? In traffic. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. Rather than be like, oh, hello, driving here. Watch your energy and go, oh my gosh, wherever they're going, I hope they get there safely. Yeah, we don't want to make that mistake. What happens is when this intention changes, when you go out there and you, oh no, it's okay. It's all right. It is pretty funny though. What happens when this intention changes is you begin to build this compassionate place, and you see bits of yourself in them, because you've been the person who unintentionally cut somebody off. You didn't know. Or you've been the person who's been racing to get somewhere and was like, oh, sorry, I almost missed my exit. And you're like apologizing, right? It's been you. So when these opportunities come up, I'm glad, Zoe, thank you for giving me the chance to clarify that. It's when the opportunities arise. Don't go starting crap with people. They may not be ready for your version of compassion, right? But you'll get a chance to practice it. So stay in touch with me. Remember, TriffanyHammond.com/the inside scope. Let me know where you get stuck. Let me know where the hassles come, and I'll try to answer it on the next inside scope. That's the third Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. So of course, come back to these 8:30 every Wednesday at 8:30. I already said that. Yes. Oh, good. Well, you're welcome too. I'm so glad you were here this morning. What a great opportunity for us to meet. I hope we get to stay in touch. These happen Wednesdays at 8:30 Mountain Time, and the Inside Scope is where I answer your questions. That's the third Thursday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And next week we've got office hours for the conscious transition students. So if you are a conscious transition student, make sure you've got that on your calendar. You can come next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time to our office hours call. So that's it for now. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your comments, your contributions, your hearts. Loved having you here today, and I hope to see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Happy summertime.